what is a buffer zone and what is a frontier. Okay? So in many sense, they are same, but I'll explain all the differences. Okay, so let me first explain what a buffer zone is. Okay, buffer zone is a type of a politically neutral zone. A buffer zone is identified mainly for separating two powerful and conflicting पावर सेंटर्स. अगर कोई पावरफुल कंट्री यहां पर है, एक और कंट्री यहां पर है, to ensure that they don't fight and they don't have interests that intrude, so they create a kind of a buffer zone that you don't enter here, I will not enter here, this zone will maintain the distance between us. So the buffer zone is a kind of a politically neutral zone. Buffer zone essentially tries to ensure that borders of the conflicting powers are not beside each other. So imagine country A and country B. अगर इनका border यहाँ है, beside one another, it's always a dangerous situation. So buffer zone kind of separates the two political units, ताकि border common ना हो. This acts like a politically neutral country or an area, and this will avoid the conflicts between them. So a buffer zone can exist as a part of a political treaty, and this political treaty, or it can be part of a political understanding. कि हम understanding हो गया है कि you will not come here, I will not. There's no treaty as such, but a political realistic thinking is that we will maintain this as a part of our security. Okay, think of Ukraine. Ukraine is like a buffer zone, or it was like a buffer zone between Russia and between the NATO countries. Okay, so what we did was Thailand. If you know Thailand, Thailand was like a buffer zone between the French Indochina and the British Indochina. Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, ये French Indochina था. Whereas Myanmar and India is the British Indochina. So what happened? Thailand was like a buffer zone. Thailand is called a land of free. Thailand was never colonized because of this. And sometimes post-conflicts, okay, the buffer zones can be created. जैसे कि we have done this for Iraq. For Iraq, we have a no-fly zone towards the Kurd regions of the north. तो यूएस ने क्या किया है? एक बफर जोन क्रिएट किया है. Iraqi forces can't enter toward the Kurd regions. Northern part of Iraq is the Iraqi Kurdistan. Okay, capital at Erbil, capital है उसका. So एक बफर जोन वहां बनाया गया है. So बफर जोन का primary aspect है to avoid conflicts. And buffer zone concept can exist along with the concept of borders. Borders तो है, like this border exists, this border exists, and yet we have a buffer zone. The buffer zone can be a physical territory. The buffer zone can be a country. The buffer zone could be any location where they agree that they will not fight. So buffer zone, remember, is a concept which can coexist along with the concept of borders. कि borders हैं, okay, यहाँ पर आपका border है और एक buffer zone create हुआ. Frontier, okay, can be one type of buffer zone, but not all buffer zones are frontiers. Now see, whereas if I compare with frontiers, frontier zones, frontiers are basically areas of physical accessibility problems. ये mountainous areas हैं, ये dense forests हैं, this could be swamps maybe, okay, these could be large deserts maybe, which are difficult to cross. So this is a country and यहाँ पर a massive desert is here. Okay, so this country का border यहाँ पर है, but यहाँ पर desert I can't cross. So it's accepted that this is like a zone that separates power A from power B. ये बफर जोन नहीं है. Okay, this is basically an area of limitations of physical accessibility. और धीरे धीरे as you encroach, ultimately they agree, let us have a border now. Okay, so Tibetan region was like a frontier. Okay, the parts of Sahara has been frontiers. To large extent, the Amazon regions have been frontiers. और frontiers तब लागू था when the communication technology was limited. Your ability to cross was limited. But slowly, gradually, you can cut the forest, build the roads, you're going to add traffic. So frontiers का evolution हो जाता है into a proper border. And a frontier is a region, border will be a line. तो वो सबको पता है आपको. So my point here is, the buffer zones, they are more of a political concept for maintaining political neutrality between two opposing or conflicting powers. And this location of neutrality can be a frontier also, but not always. Okay. And even after the formation of the boundaries, the buffer concept can still be relevant. Whereas a frontier is an area of physical limitations, where because of limited technologies, because of limited accessibility, that area kind of separates two political entities. So if I make a list of what is a buffer area and what is a frontier. So a frontier is a region. This also is a region. A frontier is because of physical accessibility problems. There are areas which are difficult to cross. Therefore, this concept is basically concept related to physical aspects. Whereas a buffer is more of a political concept. The buffer zone is deliberately created. It is deliberately created. Frontier आप create नहीं करते हो, frontier होता है. A frontier is generally naturally present. Okay, because forests natural है, deserts natural है, the large swamps natural है. Okay, they are present naturally. Okay, and there are areas of physical accessibility problem. ये create किया जाता है deliberately, either as a part of a formal treaty or as a part of informal understanding. There's a Ukraine was like a buffer, is a part of informal understanding. When NATO countries and Russia, it becomes a buffer zone. ठीक है? Is a part of either a formal treaty or it's part. जैसे कि Thailand was a formal treaty. French, Indochina and British वाले ये treaty था इनका कि भाई आप भी नहीं colonize करोगे Thailand को, हम भी नहीं करेंगे colonize Thailand को. That's why Thailand is called as the land of the free. Okay, Thailand was never colonized because of that. So it can be a formal treaty or it can be part of certain informal understanding. And concept of buffer, it's relevant even after the border concepts evolution. कि border बन गया, even after borders have been made, buffer concept is still valid. होता है, अभी भी valid है. It's possible, maybe as a part of understanding, we decide that the Tibet region becomes a buffer between India and rest of China. Who knows? You could have a understanding there. So अभी आपका लद्दाख में हुआ understanding है, okay, that this is a buffer zone. Even if you have a border, I can have a buffer. But frontier जो है, frontier is the initial stage in the development of borders. Okay, frontier पहले होता है, slowly, gradually, the frontiers convert into borders. उसमें, if you know about the concept of the forward marches, areas of resource exploitation, and then a boundary is finally drawn. इसका best example है Pripyat marshes. Pripyat marshes were frontier zones of the German-Poland influence. But धीरे धीरे Pripyat, P-R-I-P-E-T, Pripyat marshes were converted into a proper border line. Okay, Poland में. प्रिपेट मार्शेस. So वैसे ही साउथ अमेरिका में एक मार्श है called as Panatal, Panatal. Panatal are the largest swamps of the world. Panatal, Panatal. Panatal अब बन गया है border Paraguay and Brazil. Panatal has a border proper. So what I'm saying is frontiers, they exist naturally and frontiers slowly evolve into borders. It's a slow, gradual political evolution. Okay? And finally, I said, it's possible for a buffer zone to be a frontier. Some buffer zones, okay, maybe in the past were frontiers also. But today we say, आज के date में frontiers don't exist anymore. Almost all countries now have proper borders, but buffer zones will continue to exist. It's possible tomorrow if China and Russia end up in a conflict, who knows, they declare Mongolia can become the buffer zone. Okay? So buffer zone का relevance अभी भी है whenever there's conflicts, but not in case of frontiers. Today we don't have any proper functioning frontier except for maybe Antarctica. Antarctica or maybe Arctic zone also. Otherwise, we don't have any functioning frontiers anymore.